hadn't been to a family event in over 5 years. No birthdays, no holidays, not even my own father's funeral. So when I got the invitation to Claire's $75,000 wedding in Lake Tahoe, I wasn't sure if I was supposed to go, or if I even wanted to. My name is Lena. I'm 34, a single mom living in a tiny Sacramento apartment, working 2 jobs just to make ends meet. My sister Claire, she's 31, a high-powered PR exec in Los Angeles, living a life I could barely imagine. Jet setting, champagne toasts, and a 2-day party with 300 guests, drones, vintage cars, the whole 9 yards. Our family hasn't spoken much since I left my abusive husband and chose to raise my daughter on my own. To them, I was the disappointment, the failure who gave up on tradition and stability. When Mom handed me that elegant embossed invitation, she made it clear. Skipping the wedding would make me look small, petty even. I didn't know it yet, but my 10-year-old daughter was about to do something no adult in that room dared to do in the last decade. And it was about to change everything. But before I tell you what happened at that wedding, you need to understand how we got there, why I was supposed to stay away forever. I remember the day we left for the wedding like it was yesterday. I had just enough money to buy Emily a dress, $12 at a clearance rack with a coupon I'd clipped weeks before. It wasn't much, but it was pink satin, and when she twirled in front of the mirror, her eyes sparkled like she was ready for a red carpet. I borrowed a simple black dress from a coworker for myself, something to blend in, nothing fancy. We packed our bags tight, just a small tote, Emily's favorite old phone, and a few essentials. The drive from Sacramento to Lake Tahoe took almost 3 hours. Emily sat quietly beside me, biting into a caramel apple she'd begged for at the last gas station. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Mom, maybe this time they'll see how kind you are." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I wanted to believe it too. For her, for us. Pulling up to the venue was like stepping into another world. There was a bright red carpet leading into the lodge. Tiny fireworks fizzled against the pine trees, and a live band played smooth jazz near the entrance. Guests in designer gowns and tuxedos mingled, champagne flutes sparkling under the glow of chandeliers. The air smelled of fresh roses and expensive perfume. But as we stepped inside, the glitz and glam suddenly felt suffocating. There was no place card for me. The only seat offered was a plastic chair near the restrooms, tucked behind a stack of crates. Guests barely glanced our way, whispered questions about who the little girl was floated through the air. Emily gripped my hand tightly, her smile fading just a little, but still brave. It felt like we were walking into a movie set, beautiful, dazzling, unreal. But I didn't realize then that we were also walking into a trap, a stage set for humiliation. Every smile thrown our way was just a mask, every nod a carefully rehearsed act. As the music swelled and the crowd grew louder, I caught a glimpse of Claire, my sister, standing at the center of it all, draped in silk and diamonds. Her smile was perfect, but her eyes never met mine. That night was supposed to be her moment, but I knew deep down it was also the moment everything between us would break beyond repair. Emily whispered, "Mom, are you okay?" And I forced a nod, even though my heart was sinking. What I didn't know yet was that this night would change everything, not because of what Claire would say, but because of what my daughter was about to do. 5 years gone, why I wasn't supposed to be at that wedding. I was never supposed to be at that wedding, not after what happened 5 years ago. This is Revenge Her Way, where real women reclaim their power in the messiest, most unapologetic ways. My name's Lena. I'm 34, a single mom, and I rent a 2-bedroom apartment in Sacramento. Used to be a middle school teacher until life flipped me upside down. The last time I stood in the same room as my sister Claire, she couldn't even look me in the eye. I had just left my husband, a move no one in our perfectly polished family could understand. They didn't care that he broke me. To them, I was the failure, the quitter, the one who couldn't keep her vows. Claire? She's 31, lives in a downtown loft in LA, and runs PR campaigns for brands that spend more on one influencer post than I do in a year. We grew up inseparable, but she sided with the family. Every time. So when I got that oversized wedding invite, cream cardstock, gold foil, hand calligraphed, it didn't feel like an invitation. It felt like a test. Her Lake Tahoe wedding cost $75,000. 300 guests, vintage cars, drone footage, 2-day cocktail events, a stage-managed fairy tale. And me? I was told by my mother, if you don't show up, you'll just prove what they already think of you. So I went. For my daughter. For my pride. For a family that left me behind. I didn't know it yet, but my 10-year-old daughter was about to do something no adult in that room dared to do in 10 years. It felt like we were walking into a movie, but I didn't realize we were also walking into a trap. The dress was $12, a clearance rack miracle, plus a coupon I'd been saving for months. Emily twirled in it like it was made of silk, not synthetic lace. Her smile, wide, gap-toothed, and completely unaware of the storm we were walking into, that's what kept me from turning the car around. My own dress was borrowed. One of the younger teachers at school offered it after I mentioned the wedding in the break room. It fit, barely. I had to safety pin the back. But it was either that or wear the one I'd bought 3 years ago when I still believed in anniversaries. We packed light, one tote bag between the two of us. Snacks, a wrinkled invitation, an old iPhone with no service, and a half bottle of gas. That got us about halfway. I used my last 20 to fill up at a station in Auburn, and we coasted into Lake Tahoe on fumes and hope. "Mom," Emily said as we climbed the winding mountain road, "maybe they'll see how kind you are this time." I didn't answer. I couldn't. The venue looked like it had been ripped from a bridal magazine. There were white tents the size of airplane hangars, a literal red carpet, and valet staff wearing tuxedos with gloves. Firework cannons were being tested off to the side, each boom echoing across the lake like a countdown. Inside, it was even worse. Chandeliers strung with real crystals. A 4-piece string quartet playing a slowed-down version of a Beyoncé song. Guests in designer gowns, sipping champagne and laughing like they hadn't rehearsed it all in the mirror. Emily held my hand the entire time. Her little fingers curled into mine, sticky with nerves. She had no idea that we weren't really invited. Not really. Sure, we had the card, but we weren't in the program. Our table assignment? A laminated sign labeled "Overflow" tucked beside the hallway that led to the restrooms. Claire never even looked my way. Not once. She stood at the far end of the reception area, surrounded by a crowd of high-cheekboned friends and distant cousins who'd all mysteriously forgiven her for things I'd never been allowed to forget. Her dress cost more than my car. She laughed like she'd won. Someone bumped into me, carrying a tray of signature cocktails. I apologized. They didn't. Emily looked up at me and whispered, "Is it okay if I look around?" I nodded, brushing her bangs aside. "Just stay where I can see you, sweetie." She ran off, her little white flats tapping against the stone tiles. I took a deep breath and tried to ground myself. I told myself it was just one evening, just a few hours. But then I noticed someone watching me from across the tent, someone I hadn't seen in 5 years. He was holding a champagne glass, wearing a smirk I remembered all too well. And that's when I realized Claire didn't just invite me. She planned this. I thought nothing could hurt me more than being left, but humiliation? In front of 300 people? That cuts deeper. The clink of silverware on crystal died down when Claire took the microphone. She looked stunning, effortless, like she just stepped out of a movie scene. Her voice floated through the tent like honey, until it wasn't. "I just want to say," she began, smiling toward the crowd, "how thrilled I am that my big sister could make it today. It really means the world. I mean, no ring, no real job, just her and her little sidekick." She paused, let the silence drag for half a beat too long, then gave that smug little laugh she used to get away with in high school. The room erupted. Laughter rippled across the tables like a slow burn. I didn't even blink. I couldn't. My hands went cold. Emily squeezed my arm under the table, her small fingers trembling. And then Mom chimed in, from her front row seat next to the groom's parents. Loud enough for everyone to hear, like it was some kind of joke. "Please don't let her ruin the photos. Photoshop her out if needed." More laughter, bigger this time. A man behind me actually snorted. It felt like a fever dream. Like maybe, if I just closed my eyes, I'd wake up in our tiny apartment in Sacramento, with Emily wrapped in my arms, and this entire day nothing more than a bad dream. But it was real. And I was right there, in a borrowed dress, sitting next to a bathroom hallway, while my family turned me into the punchline of a $75,000 joke. I looked over at Emily. Her shoulders were tight, lips pressed together, trying so hard to be brave. She didn't cry. She didn't ask to leave. She just sat there, staring straight ahead like she was trying to disappear. I wanted to take her hand, whisper that it didn't matter, that we'd be okay, that their words didn't define us. But I couldn't even move. My body refused. My pride had already packed up and left the tent. Then something happened. Emily stood up. She didn't look at me, didn't ask permission. She just stood, smoothed out her $12 dress, and started walking toward the front. At first, I thought maybe she needed the bathroom. Maybe she just wanted to get away. But then she walked past the restrooms, past the catering table, past my mother's stiff, frozen smile, and right toward the microphone. I didn't know it yet, but that was the moment everything started to shift. They thought I was the shame of the family, but it only took 3 minutes for the truth to rip through all their lies. Emily was gone. 1 second she was beside me, and the next, nothing. Just the faint click of her shoes against polished tile, swallowed by laughter and clinking glasses. I stood up, heart racing, scanning the crowd. Then I saw her. She was at the DJ booth, backpack slung over one shoulder like she was heading into a test she already knew she'd ace. Her little fingers reached inside and pulled out a tiny black flash drive. She handed it to the DJ and whispered something. He looked confused, then glanced toward the dance floor, then back at her. Whatever she said, it convinced him. The music faded. The lights dimmed slightly. Emily climbed the steps beside the DJ, took the microphone with both hands. Her voice was calm. "Before anyone dances," she said, her words floating through the tent with the eerie weight of still water, "I think the groom should see this." People turned. A few laughed, awkward and unsure. But then the screen behind the dance floor flickered to life. The video opened with a blurry shot, someone's messy bedroom. Then Claire's voice, sharp and clear. "He's a bore, but he's loaded. I'll do 2 years max, then I'm off with the Audi and the prenup cash." A collective gasp. Someone dropped a glass. Cut to a screenshot of a text thread. Claire again. "Lena's kid wears knockoffs from Dollar Tree. So sad." Then came the final blow. A video selfie. Claire in full makeup, holding a mimosa, eyes rolled. I invited her just to remind myself what failure looks like. Silence. Complete. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, hammering in my ears. Claire was frozen mid-step on the dance floor, one hand gripping her new husband's arm. His face, pale, jaw clenched. I felt my knees shake. Not from shame, from something bigger, something sharper. Relief. Because that video, it came from my old phone, the one Claire begged to borrow months ago to transfer wedding photos. I'd thought it was weird, but I didn't ask questions. Emily had. Somehow, my 10-year-old daughter had backed up everything, saved every file. She had waited, watched, and now she delivered. For 3 minutes, that room turned from celebration to courtroom, and just when I thought it was over, the groom let go of Claire's arm and stepped forward. He looked straight at me and said one word, "Lena?" She screamed like a woman on fire, but no one moved to put her out. Claire's voice cut through the silence like glass. "It's fake. It's AI. Deep fake. You really think I'd say that?" Her face was flushed, not from embarrassment, from fury. The kind of fury people feel when control slips through their fingers in front of everyone they worked so hard to impress. Zachary didn't flinch, didn't look at her. He just stood there, tall, calm, unreadable. The kind of stillness that's more terrifying than shouting. Then, finally, he spoke. "Play the rest." Claire lunged, straight for the DJ booth. But before she could reach the laptop, someone caught her wrist. A woman in emerald silk. I realized it was Zachary's aunt, the same one who'd given a sweet speech about family during dinner. "You've done enough," she said, voice low but firm. Claire's hand dropped. Her mouth hung open in disbelief, like the world had betrayed her by not bending. And then the final clip played. Claire, sitting at her bachelorette party, makeup smeared, voice slurring into the camera. Once I marry him, I'm blocking the whole nerdy fam. You. Like, who even are these people? They bring board games to brunch. Laughter in the background. Someone yelled, "Cheers!" The screen went black. No music, no applause, just the quiet sound of a wedding imploding. Zachary turned toward her. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. "You didn't just fool me," he said. "You fooled everyone who loved me. My mom, my friends, me." Claire opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She was still wearing the $5,000 custom gown, still in her $500 designer heels, her hair still perfectly pinned, but she looked hollow. No one clapped. No one comforted her. Across the room, Emily walked back to me. Calm, steady, like she hadn't just dropped a truth bomb bigger than anything I'd ever dared. She slipped her hand into mine and held on tight. I looked down at her, her $12 dress a little wrinkled now, glitter sneakers scuffed from running, her eyes shining not with pride, but peace. I realized something right then. In a $5,000 dress and $500 heels, Claire had nothing left. In a $12 dress and glitter sneakers, my daughter had everything. And then I heard someone whisper, behind me, sharp and just loud enough, "Wasn't she the one who left her husband?" Another voice responded, maybe she was the only one brave enough to. I turned to look, but they'd already faded into the crowd. And just when I thought it was over, Zachary began walking toward me.